Hello, can you hear me?
Hello, Dr. Caddy. Are you able to hear me?
Yes, I am now.
I'm sorry. I've got this computer and I had to use my cell phone to call in because my microphone is not connected to the computer.
Okay, that's not a problem. I mean, I've never used this before myself. I've used it in the past when I've been in a conference, but so this is all new to me. And the purpose of the meeting was really, it's just like an office hour, and I want to test for myself. So when we do have our presentation evenings, that it goes without a hitch.
Oh, yeah.
I'll try it.
So what I will have to do when I do my participation, I will have to make sure I've got a microphone and then I have my camera on so that the class will be able to see me. So I'm not connected that way this time, but it's fine.
No, that's fine. I mean, we have a couple weeks until until the time comes, and I always have these double feeling about seeing myself. I don't like to look at myself. To be honest with you.
Me too. Me too.
I say, who's that old guy? It's me, young guy. But, can you hear us, Kristen?
I can. Can you hear me?
I can.
Awesome.
So I see you have your video off. I turned mine. I normally don't have mine on. I turn it on. In the final presentation, you don't want to have your video on. That's fine. I mean, really, what I'm looking for is I'll turn the screen over to you, and you'll give your PowerPoint presentation.
Okay.
Do you guys have any questions or?
What y'all were talking about earlier when it'll come to the presentation, we'll have to get together in a Zoom meeting, our group, and just present like that to you? Or how would that go?
Well, actually, what I'm going to do is your team leader will be like the MC. So you guys will have to decide, who's up first, and then who's up second, who's up third. And then I'll turn the screen over to the team leader, and then sorry, I don't want to sound like a sexist, him or her will,
Right.
him or her will then turn the screen over to each of the team members in sequence, and you guys will each give your part. So does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
I mean, I'm new to this as well. I mean,
okay. I've never attempted a presentation like this.
I mean, you just took the first part of the course. Who'd you take it with, Kurt? Dr. Roney?
Yes, the first one.
And you didn't have any presentation that you had to like give over Zoom?
Mm-mm. We didn't have, well, I mean, yeah, we didn't do Zoom at all in the first class.
Okay.
I think we initially did Zoom the very, very first class of our master's program, and I have not had to use it no more the whole 2 years that I've been here. I've only
Yep.
used it that one time.
Yep, I remember that.
See, I could like share a screen with you or a whiteboard, and so that's what I'm going to do when we do the final presentation. I don't think it'll be a problem. I'm pretty sure we'll figure it out. And normally we're now required to have office hours each week. So I'll be having office hours if you guys have any things you need to talk about or things that need clarification. So like I said, this is just an experiment. So has everything
Yes, I'll definitely, go ahead.
Sorry, has everything been clear so far? Are you on track? And
Let's see. The case studies and the, quizzes, that's pretty much what we did in the first class. Let's see, our group, we pretty much got everything set up, who's doing what. Reading over week 4 is when we start gathering information. And so, let's see, saying your team will gather info about the relevant economy or economies in the case of multinational corporations. So that's how good they've done in the other countries and here.
yeah, if it's a multinational company, I mean I sent each of your team leaders a PowerPoint. I mean, it's serious PowerPoint. From, did you guys see the PowerPoint that I sent to the team leader? Did they share it with you?
Of other teams in the past, that PowerPoint, or?
I sent one PowerPoint. You each chose a company, and then I asked Kurt to give me an A-level PowerPoint, and I sent it to the team leader. So you have kind of like an idea of what's expected.
I have not seen that yet. That might be something I get with my team lead about, but I haven't seen that yet.
Yeah, you should talk to your team leader and have them share that with you, so everybody on the team can see, what an A-level presentation looks like and what type of data is required.
Okay, because this is what she sent me so far. The annual report for the company we're doing, 10Q for the company, 10K, and then there's 3 presentations, PowerPoint presentations that she sent. Now, I just figured those were by other teams in the past.
Yeah, so I'll pull up one now.
Okay.
Let me see. So here's one. Here's one. I think I have one on Pfizer. Yeah, here, Pfizer. Here's the Pfizer presentation. Let me see if I can make this work. Okay, let me see if I can make this work now. Okay, so I can share my screen. See how this works.
There you go.
Okay, so let me see. Do you see a Pfizer PowerPoint?
Yes, sir.
I can see it.
Okay, so this is. Are there you guys on the team that took the Pfizer company to examine? Well,
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
I, each of your teams selected a company. Did either your team select Pfizer, or was that another team?
That's
Mine
another
select-
team.
Yeah,
We
another
have,
team.
yeah, we have Toyota.
Well, this is the Pfizer one. I sent one to the team leader for Toyota too. This is just
Oh, okay.
this. So ask him if you want to see it, or just email me and I'll send you a copy. But I did that so each of you can see. So can you see now as I'm going? Like there's a table of contents. Is that on your screen?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, we can see it.
Okay, so this is what I did. This is an example. This is the team that did it. This is an example of what's an A-level presentation. You can see it's almost over the top. It goes through, and this is what you'll have to do in your final presentation. You'll get up there, and the team leader will start by saying, well, we have Kristen doing introduction and background, and then the team leader will say, take it away, Kristen, and then, okay.
Oh boy.
So this is like the history, and it goes through the history when things
What's
happen
happened?
that made a difference.
Okay, made a difference.
So, products. So this is just going through the whole background of the company. I mean, you can see this was, then you go through the mission statement, and you can use Abel's model. I don't know if you remember that. So it shows consumer groups, unmet needs, and distinctive competencies. So this is the kind of thing you're going to do. This is really what the course is all about. I mean, we're doing some cases and stuff, but you should be working on this now. But once we get to week 4, 5, and 6, this is really what you're going to put together. So you can see it goes through environmental economics. It looks at some, and if you go through some of the lectures, they go to, all this data is on the internet.
Okay.
It's not.
So I've got a question about that. So we're going to be, I just want to make sure I'm clear. So we're going to be doing this on a PowerPoint slide and not also a written Word document. Is that correct?
No written Word document.
Okay, just PowerPoint. I just want to be clear. Yeah.
It's just going to be a PowerPoint presentation.
Okay.
And I'm going to tape the presentation because the final exam is based on the presentations. The final exam is for.
I'm sorry, and I have one more question. So, like you have on the Moodle site for like week 4, and we're working together as a team. What should we be submitting on week 4? Like, what information are you looking for on week 4?
If you look at the what's to be covered, I mean, I'll go into depth with it, but week 4 is the background information. So
okay.
So if you look at it in week 4, so you're going to be creating this as we go through the 3 weeks. So in week 4, this introduction and background, that's what you're going to do. So you're going to have that part of the PowerPoint that I don't think I'm going to have you present it, but I'm going to have you, submit it. And not all the students have to submit that because there's 3 teams. I don't need 15 PowerPoints,
Right. So when we submit it as a team, you're going to look over it, and if we are missing something, you're going to kind of advise us as we go along, as we move along.
Correct. So that when we get to week 7 and we finally do the presentation, if you miss some, hey, that's fine. Just fix it. So that by the time we get to week 7 and it's this whole complete presentation, anything we missed, I will have commented on that you will have fixed.
Right. Okay. That's good to know.
So it should, so in weeks 4, 5, and 6, it's just going to be your team leader presenting the pieces, because this is like, or if you go through if you look at each of the weeks, like week 4, 5, and 6, you'll see the pieces are laid out there, and so you'll submit those pieces for each of those weeks, and then in week 7, you're just going to put the 3 PowerPoints that you created for 4, 5, and 6 together in a final presentation.
Okay. That makes sense. It makes sense now.
And then I'm going to, when you give the presentation, and not one person's going to give it, I mean, hopefully you split up the work. You don't want to make somebody like have a big sack on their back. So hopefully you split up the work so each of you guys are doing a piece of it. And then, so each of you will present that piece. And then I'm gonna record it, and I'm gonna post the recorded video of your presentations, because the final exam is going to be, if you're not required to go to all the presentations, but you're actually required to like watch them. So, and it probably should be about an hour.
Yeah, I was gonna say, how long is it? Got to be a certain length of time or presentation?
I hate to say how long, because then you'll make it that long, and it may make sense or not make sense. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, yes.
How long should the paper be? Well, if I say 5 pages, they'd make 5 pages.
So like 10.
But they could have done it in 2. They just take 2 pages and make it into 5. So, normally the presentation lasts somewhere around, if it's less than 30 minutes, it's really not very good. At 90 minutes, you're going to be putting me to sleep, so that's too long. So somewhere between more than 30 minutes, less than 90 minutes, an hour maybe. You know what I'm saying? A lot of it depends upon how well having more stuff isn't always better. Just because you have more words or more slides doesn't make it a better presentation. So.
Oh yeah, the less words on a PowerPoint, the better.
In the old days, when somebody gave me a memo, I would always, if the memo was 5 pages long, I would look at them, I would rip 4 of the 5 pages off, throw them in the garbage can, and read the first page, and I would say, if you can't tell me what you need to tell me in 1 page, I'm not reading 5 pages. You got me? It's up to you to put the presentation together, but just don't put stuff in there to make it heavy. Put stuff in there that matters.
Right.
So like I said, 30 minutes, more than 30 minutes, less than 90 minutes. Somewhere.
So I'm looking at this Pfizer one, and it looks like it's got 125 slides.
It does.
I saw that.
These people who put this together, this is like something, it's like, the 3 that I sent, so you have to get it from your team leader, or if they're not sending it to you, just tell me what team you're on, and I'll send you the presentation that I sent as a guide, because it really is a guide. I don't want you just to copy this, but
right.
Yeah, 125 slides. You can look here. I mean, they went through. They used Abel's model. That's one way to look at a mission statement. And then they went through the vision and the vision now and where they want to be in 2023. I'm just going through. You asked about other countries. I mean, if it's a multinational corporation, then you do have to look at other countries. And in healthcare, it's always interesting because, how much money other countries spend on healthcare. Pharmaceuticals, of course, we spend more than anybody because the rest of the world, since it's basically socialized medicine, the government negotiates the price of pharmaceuticals. We don't do that here. So that's an interesting thing to look at. So you can see it's PPP, which is purchasing price parity. it's just showing the different things, what's going on in other countries. And it's just, the United States makes up half of Pfizer's revenue, which is interesting, U.S. wealthy. So it's just, it's going into what's going on in the background, whether it's Toyota. I mean, when you look at the car business and you look at the car business and where the future of that is, I mean, I was listening to a guy at NPR the other day. He used to be vice president at GM. And, they're talking about autonomous electric vehicles. We're not going to be driving our Corvettes anymore. We're going to be in these little pods. So,
like the Jetsons.
This is what strategic planning is all about. Because if you are a senior manager at Toyota and you're not anticipating that, in 20 years, we might not be driving cars anymore. They might all be electric cars. Who knows? So this just shows.
Those charts, is that something they found on the internet or something they just kind of made up?
The what?
These charts that you're going through.
These charts, there's if you go, there's a couple different sites.
Okay.
It's not something that you're going to do. I mean, you can see these are done by all this information has been done before. One is if you go to the IMF site, everything, there's so much information there on what's going on in the world. And I used to use MSN Money. If I was going to do ratio analysis, I never calculate the ratios. You just go on MSN Money and they're all calculated. They're just not, they calculate the ratio for the past 5 years, plus they calculate the ratio for the industry, and all that information is out there.
Okay, I was going to ask you what the IMF database was, but okay, you just answered.
It's IMF. It stands for International Monetary Fund.
Okay.
So if you just put IMF.org, you can get on that site and you could spend more time than you ever want to spend. Getting more information than you'll ever need in 2 lifetimes. But you guys studied Porter's Diamond and probably in the first part of the course.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we did.
We did, yeah.
And these are just different. So you can look at Pfizer. It's real important how healthcare is delivered. Whether the country has some kind of a government subsidized health plan, which is true in most of Western Europe, Canada. As you can see here, Africa they don't have any health care there, unfortunately.
Mm-hmm.
But they don't have government programs there. A lot of South America has government programs. A lot of Canada, of course, and then you can see here, it's most of Europe, Western and Eastern Europe. Australia, of course. And then this is Southeast Asia. They're just poor countries. They don't have health care. So you can look at, what's population. You have to decide. Part of this is your own brain kind of like doing analysis, doing some critical thinking. What's important for Pfizer isn't going to be important for Toyota. And it's not going to be important for Pepsi. So you really have to, you can see this is so much is driven in healthcare by, of course, disease and how we deal with the system. So just diabetes, of course, is endemic in developed countries because we have our diets aren't so good. So anyway, I'm just showing you what I sent. The same thing they put in cartoons and stuff. You have to do that.
Oh.
And then the industry analysis. So it goes.
Wow.
You decide which ones you use. There's the BCG matrix, which is one you can use. And then you look at competitors, what's going on with competitors. With Toyota, it's the car industry. fortified forces, industry life cycle. This is the, we used to say the famous S curve: lag phase, log phase, stationary phase, and death phase. So where do their products fit on these various on the product life cycle? Because normally by the time you get to the mature and decline stage, these things aren't made in the U.S. anymore. Even for pharmaceuticals, I found that out. I take a blood pressure medicine, and they had a recall on it because it had nitrosamines in it. And then I find out, well, yeah, it's being made in China. So,
Yeah, that's most things nowadays.
but it's an old blood pressure medicine, So do you want to know where your company fits on that? These are just different. These again are things that you can get off the web. It shows what was going on with different sales, operating profit margin, ROI, return on investment, ROE, return on equity, long-term debt, equity, invested capital, and leverage. I mean, whatever the group that's doing Pepsi, you'll see their leverage ratio went crazy because, they restructured the whole way, their whole capital structure. Well, they went from like 20% debt to like 80% debt. But debt is so cheap now, So anyway, I'm just showing you an example of really kind of where you have to go with this. You may not have to. This almost has too much.
That's pretty good, though. Wow.
That's a lot.
It is good. I was just curious, how long did it take them to present this?
90 minutes.
Oh, wow.
Because each of the slides doesn't, it looks like a lot, but it really, what does this say? This is just talking about horizontal acquisitions. Horizontal acquisitions are when you acquire a company that basically is your competitor. So they did that. I don't know if and how they developed their capabilities. And then they have, it's interesting. He's a DVM. That's interesting. Most they're run by MDs, but. My brother's married to the daughter of the guy that he's dead now, but he was the CFO of Pfizer. My brother got my brother a job there for a while. My brother was the head of like maintenance, but he also had security, which was an unusual thing for my brother to be in charge of. But it's a big company, made a lot of money. So you can see this is really kind of just that's all the slides. So
definitely include references on the last slide. Like
yeah,
they did.
I wouldn't go crazy with that, but yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Anyway, so I can stop share. I'm just playing with this. You guys got any other questions or anything?
Let's see. The case analysis, I just want to make sure I do this right before I turn it in. Okay, 2 to 3 pages, correct?
There are 3 questions. Again, I don't like to give the number of pages, but those questions are pretty, they're pretty easy. I mean, actually, the last company I worked for, we actually did the same thing that did. When a company starts out and they start expanding, you normally do what we call a multi-domestic approach, where you go to England and then you start a company in England, and then you go to Finland or Italy, and you end up with 20 or 30 different companies, all basically doing the same thing, but they all have, I used to call them little kings, managing directors. But there comes a time when that's not efficient. That's what that case is all about. So really what I'm looking for you to do is 3 questions, 3 pages. You can answer each of those questions probably in a half a page.
Okay, because oh, sorry.
No, I'm just looking for some analysis. That's all.
Okay, because I've always been known to, I guess I don't go in depth enough. Because like when it would come to tests, they expect us, I would write maybe like 3 sentences because I'm like, okay, let's, straight to the point, but nope.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't waste a lot of time on stuff that's not relevant.
Okay.
So, yeah, that one, some of the other ones might require a little more analysis. That one's pretty straightforward. Unilever had a bunch of different companies in a bunch of different countries that cost a boatload of money. And what they decided to do, well, we did. We ended up with 3 divisions. We had the North America, we had Europe, and we had something, it was a joke. I work with the French, and so they called the 3rd division frog, which is a very bad thing. Don't ever call a Frenchman frog. You get hit in the face.
Okay, thanks.
They made it a joke because we were friends enough that we can joke about stuff like that. Frog stood for France and the rest of the globe. So we went from having, I lost count of how many divisions, to having 3: the U.S. and Europe and France and the rest of the globe. And that's what Unilever did. So what I'm really looking for you to do is, well, what's the advantage of somebody doing that from a strategy? And the advantage is, it's cheaper. And you begin, because instead of having a manufacturing facility in every country, we ended up with 2 or 3 manufacturing facilities. One was in France. We sold lab equipment. We sold ultra-low temp freezers. And we actually put that manufacturing facility in the Czech Republic. Why? Because it was cheap. Back
Good.
when the wall fell, the hourly rate was like $3 an hour. The quality wasn't very good. What the Czech guy, he said to me one time, because they had just gone from being communists to being like capitalists. He said to me one time, he said, well, you pretend to pay us and we pretend to work.
Nice.
Anyway, it eventually turned around. So that's really what's happening with Unilever. That's kind of what I want you to do, that kind of analysis. Say, okay, why did they do this? And does it make sense? And were they successful? If yes, why were they successful? If no, why weren't they successful? To me, that's really the kind of analysis that I look for. It's called critical thinking. Any other questions?
So as you're explaining this, it doesn't seem as difficult as I first thought. I was a little nervous about this presentation, but with you showing us examples and just giving us some basic, it makes sense to me now. Because reading all of that, at first I was like, oh gosh.
Look, if it's difficult, most of us dummies out here would never be able to do it. If you think that businessmen are that smart, they're not. So it's just.
So this is helpful. This is very helpful for me.
Then it'll help you in your life. I mean, it'll teach you how to do research. That really becomes, helpful. I mean, my brother was diagnosed with cancer 10 years ago, and so, what to do. The treatments are so they're not straightforward, and so I spent 6 months researching different treatments because I have this skill set and I'm not a genius. I developed it just like you're going to develop it, is go search through things, and he's still around. We chose a therapy, and we chose a doctor and a hospital. All those things are important, but I credit the fact that I'm a critical thinker, and I can tell, what's real from what's not real. And that's really
right.
That's really the skill set that we're looking to impart on our students through this exercise. Make sense?
Oh, yes.
Yes, it does.
And you'll have another one of these meetings next week because I have a feeling we'll have questions as we go forward.
Yeah, I'm gonna do one of these every week. Whoever wants to. It's not required. If you want to come, come. If you don't have any questions, don't come. I'll hang around for a while, and if nobody shows up, I'll talk to myself a little while. Maybe I'll bring my dog. That's my
Yeah.
dog. You know what I'm
I
saying?
have my cat behind me.
You have a cat? I used to have a cat too.
Yep, Trudy.
I have 2 doggies now.
Yeah, I got 2 dogs also. They're
Well,
passed out.
I have 2 Rotties. They scare my neighbors.
Good. That's usually a good thing.
Actually have a sign on the front door. It says, "This door is locked for your protection." Anyway, you guys got any other questions, or does it look like anybody else is coming? So
I've got just a question. The first quiz that we took, do you know when that will be graded?
Oh, yeah.
That very first, like from week 1?
it should have been graded automatically.
So it does not show the grade. I mean, normal. It looks like every time I go out there to look, looks like the date has changed when it's due. I've already done it, but
Let me explain.
I don't know
that
what's
to
going
you.
on.
I had some students who, for whatever reason, couldn't complete it with the due date. So Softy Me changed the due date so everybody can complete it. So don't pay
Oh,
attention.
wow.
Oh, I see. July 12th?
Maybe that's not fair, eh? But that's just me. To me, we're all adults. We all have stuff going on in our lives. And so it changed probably
I
3
was-
times.
I was nervous to take
Yeah.
it.
I don't even know
Yeah,
if I'm
me
going to put a
too.
date on them anymore, to tell you the truth. This is
Well, that was very nice of you. That was so nice of you because when we began the program, they were telling us no late work, no excuses, and everybody works a full-time job. So it can be tough.
Yeah, that's how I got my education. I can remember in the old days when I got my first master's degree, I had to write a thesis. I had to do basic research. That was a microbiologist back then. And it was a pain in the neck. I can remember coming home at midnight. My wife wasn't really happy with me. But,
No.
when I finally graduated, we had a big blowout celebration, lots of vino. I don't want to screw somebody else up. I mean, the purpose of what we're doing is to learn, more than anything else, more than getting a degree.
Yeah,
The purpose
that's
is
right.
to have knowledge. Anyway,
Yeah, it doesn't hurt.
so look at your grade book for that grade. I'm gonna go and check it out too.
So, because I did my second week's quiz already, which I know I've still had a few days, but I looked at the third week and it's so much work. I try to work ahead when I can. So I don't see anything uploaded, so I don't know what's going on.
Yeah, I mean, week 3 is open. If you want to do stuff now, you can do it.
Yeah, and I noticed that, and I appreciate that because we've had professors that restrict it and it's hard to work ahead because sometimes you need to work ahead if you have the time.
Sure. I mean, it depends upon your personality. I mean, I have one of my sons who's a procrastinator, so he's always in a tizzy. With me, I always work ahead because I don't like to give myself unnecessary. There's enough stress in the world. I don't need any more.
Exactly. I agree.
But everybody has a different personality. If that's then you have a personality like mine. I always work ahead with everything. With this course, I work ahead. I know where it's going to go. That's why I'm doing this tonight, because I want to make sure that when we get to actually doing this, that that it goes off without a hitch. The last thing I want to be doing is messing around with something and wasting everybody's time. Anyway, any other questions?
I don't think so.
Okay,
That I
ladies,
think of.
I'm going to sign off. I'm actually going to I'm going to see how I can turn this into a YouTube over the next day. But I'm going to sign off, and it's been real hanging out with you guys.
Thank
Thank
you.
you so much. We
Yes.
appreciate it.
If you guys want to hang out again next week, just come on in. I'll post another kind of meeting thing.
Sounds like a plan.
That's the plan, man.
Sounds good.
Be cool.
All right.
All right.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.